Hey everybody, this is Mike Bono from the North Andover Athletic Association, and you are listening to the Nightly News Podcast, the show that brings you inside the lines of North Andover High School athletics. All right, welcome back. Al, how are you?
Good, how are you, Mike?
I'm doing great. We are back in the saddle here with our next special guest, Coach Caitlin Flanagan, but I haven't heard of anybody call her Coach Flanagan. It's just Flan. You say Flan, and everybody knows who you're talking about. And by the way, my daughter Anna, I think her favorite teacher all time at North Andover High School. Don't tell anybody else.
No, I love that. Only the people listening can know.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. So Coach Flan is the head coach of the girls' varsity softball team here in North Andover since 2012. Is that right?
Since 2012.
11th year?
Yeah.
Time flies.
Yeah, crazy.
Whoa.
I know.
In addition to coaching, you are also an AP statistics teacher at the high school.
That's right.
Like my head is, I got a headache just saying that.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself so people kind of get to know you a little bit more.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. Thank you both.
Absolutely.
So I played college ball at Stonehill, so that kind of brought me up this way because I'm from New York originally. And I landed after college, I landed at Peabody High, did a little coaching there, and then came to North Andover shortly after. So I've been teaching and coaching for 15 years in some way or another. So now at the high school, I'm the softball coach. I'm a new teacher mentor, the junior class advisor.
Nice.
Pay your class dues if you're listening.
Yes, parents, pay the dues because there's so many expenses at the end of the senior year and coming up with $350 sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't have a junior this year, but every time I get that, I'm like, did we pay it? I have no idea. Did my wife pay it? Like, can I check somewhere? Anyway. But yes, I agree. I can understand from the other side why that's frustrating.
Yeah. But just kind of a little bit of everything. But we're coming up on softball season, so that's about softball season and AP season. So that's, busy. This is the busy time, but it's the best time.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so the season starts, the practice starts March 20th.
March 20th.
Of course, we've had no snow. The weather's been beautiful. We probably could have started practices in January. Come March, you probably won't get on the field until the beginning of April.
No,
rain every day.
It's what happens every single year. Last year was the exception. It's what we're used to, unfortunately. Probably the worst part of coaching in the spring is just not knowing what the field's going to look like on any given day.
Sure.
And the fact that you're at McAvoy and that field has some issues, we'll say, some things going on over there. It doesn't always make it it drizzles out and game's canceled, which is unfortunate. So as you look forward to this season, talk a little bit about, maybe we can just do a flashback last year. Sure. Tough loss to Central Catholic by one run in the tournament, but you had some key losses on your team.
Yeah.
From last year, maybe talk about a few of them, and just kind of talk about what who you see replacing them.
So last year was kind of a special year. A huge senior class, 7 or 8 of them were seniors who graduated. All of them impact players, in some way or another. Everyone had a different role, but we graduated a pitcher, a catcher, a shortstop, an outfielder, first baseman. So a lot of positions to fill. But I have about 8 kids returning who kind of all played utility roles last year. So I'm actually really excited for those 8 to get on the field and get the time that they kind of earned last year. So even though we graduated half the team, the other half is ready to go, and then we'll kind of fill in the holes once tryouts roll around and we see what we need to fill. I've got a junior pitcher coming back. That's always, you guys both know, in softball, without a pitcher, it's hard to win a game.
Doesn't matter.
Yep.
It almost doesn't matter what else happens.
And that pitcher can pitch as much as they want.
Yeah.
Right? Unlimited.
And there's no rules in terms of like pitch count or anything like that, other than just taking care of her body and making sure she's healthy and doing what's best by her.
You've had the rare luxury, I think, in softball of 2 pitchers. A lot of the last maybe 5 years, like 2 legitimate pitchers.
Yeah.
Every team's got 2 or 3, but you've had, I can imagine that I can see scenarios where you're wondering the night before, who do I throw tomorrow? It's a big game. I could throw either one of these girls.
Yep.
Speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Especially last year because both of my pitchers played other positions well.
Right.
So they were both impact players. They were both always in the hitting lineup. So figuring out, is it better to have a stronger pitcher or a better outfielder in that particular game? So that was, constantly something we were thinking about the night before, based on how many pitches they've already thrown, how's the arm feeling, how's everything else feeling. If they're in the outfield, they're moving. So that was kind of always something we were thinking about. But the beginning of my career, I did not always have that luxury, and it's a game changer. It makes a big difference when you have more than one person you can put out in the circle and not, close your eyes and hope for the best.
Do you like I was going to ask the girl from Lowell, like that lights out pitcher came in freshman year. Like when you see some girl come in freshman year, and you're like, oh man, the next 4 years are going to be pretty difficult for us.
Thankfully, she graduated.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Got her once in 2019. We got her that spring.
Yeah.
We got her, right? That was her first loss in the MVC for a while.
So, Al's, your daughter, Jordan, is a former softball player, right? So you know the program well.
Yeah. I can't speak too much prior to 16 or so when she was a freshman, but, to me, it seems like the program's really just kept going up, for the past 7, 8, 9 years.
It seems like it. We have, to kind of proof of that, we have a youth clinic coming up next week, and it's the most registrations I've ever had for a youth clinic. Yeah. Maybe it's because we've taken the past few years off with COVID and
a lot of sports are losing kids because of that. So I really think it's something else.
I hope so.
Yeah. I did. So I coached in town last year with my daughter, and they said that last year the numbers were higher then than they probably had been in the previous 7 or 8 years. So it's nice to see that the youth teams are growing.
Yeah, that is huge.
And I'll just shameless shout out to fellow NAAA board member Holly Lynch, who school committee member, daughter Lauren's a freshman this year, like fantastic softball player. But Holly was the Booster Club commissioner for a number of years and did a phenomenal job.
Laurie Aria, too, helping out. I think Laurie was the assistant.
Yep.
Yeah, so kudos to them for doing that. And then the clinics, like we typically ask the coaches, like your involvement with the Booster Club, because that's important, right? Like just getting your team, right, involved with them and getting that connection going so that the girls want to play. Because let's face it, first grade, second grade, third grade softball, like it's like field hockey. Like it's pretty painful. Like I mean, I don't like it unless you're kind of coaching and moving around. Like it's pretty painful. So, so it's great that we're able to keep so many kids in the program, right?
Yeah, and I think it's so important for the young girls to have a role model to look up to. I try to do that for the high school kids who are 17, 18 years old. I try to be that person, but I'm not that person for 6-year-olds. Right. They want to look up to the high school kids. And a lot of our kids will coach those teams and help out when they can. Tough when the schedules kind of conflict a little bit, so they do the best they can. But I think the little kids, they love it. They absolutely love it.
Yeah. I think too. I don't know that coaches even, realize because when I was coaching 7th and 8th grade, you came to a few games. And the girls on the bench was like, she's there, this flat. That's her. She's, And I have girls that didn't slide all year that are sliding, and girls that wouldn't. The only dive they've ever done was into a pool. They're laying out in the outfield trying to catch a ball.
That's awesome.
It matters, that you're there, that you're a presence in the youth leagues, and that the players are helping out too.
Yeah.
It matters. I did one of the great things last year was my 8th grade team that I coached. We were in the finals against a really good team with 2 or 3 good pitchers, and we didn't do well against them. And I got one of your varsity pitchers after your season was done.
Yeah, thank
you. She threw batting practice to our girls.
Oh, that's awesome.
I said, dial it up. I want them to see what they're going to see, know, and it was awesome. And the girls had a ball, and it was great.
Let me guess. Jocelyn Gove.
No, it wasn't Jocelyn. So here's the thing. Jocelyn, my little trader friend, she was helping coach the team we were playing in the finals. She was hooked up with them all year, which was fine.
But
it was your other pitcher.
Bridget. Gaffney.
Gaffney.
But in all seriousness, like Jocelyn used to come down and help Holly. Like I coached with Holly, Jocelyn would come down. So seeing players from the varsity team come down and help out with the Booster Club teams was awesome. Like it was just great to have them down there. It shows their leadership skills, and so anyway, we appreciate that.
I'm glad that you'll take them too, because they like to help out.
Right.
So it's good for them too to have to practice the leadership.
Sure. What's the MVC looking like this year? I mean, we know Central's always good, Andover up and down, but is it Central, North Andover. Who else? Chelmsford, Billerica?
Billerica's always tough. So Billerica and Tewksbury went pretty much head-for-head last year for the Division II state title. They didn't play each other in the final, but they were both in the semis. So they'll both be good again. Central's always good. Methuen's always good.
Right.
Those are probably...
How do I forget Methuen?
Well, so last year, 2022, Lowell was ranked 5th, Central was 6th, Methuen was 7th, and North Andover was 11th. That's Division I.
Yep.
And you just mentioned Billerica and Tewksbury in Division II.
Yep.
I mean, the MVC is pretty
Brutal.
good competition. Like it's pretty tough. So that helps your opponent ranking, I guess, in the new MIA rankings, right? So, and then Methuen's been pretty tough the last
Always.
20 years.
Yeah, for a long time.
Forever.
Right?
Jason Smith does an amazing job with that team. The thing that I'm most impressed in, every kid can hit.
Yeah.
Every single kid on that team can hit. They pull a girl off the bench because someone rolls an ankle. She's 2 for 3 with 2 doubles.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, they're a very strong program. Big youth program, too, and it kind of feeds in. And they have a strong travel program out of Methuen, too, with the Rangers. So they're always at the top. But we're playing them again this year. So we play them once in the regular season, and then they host a Memorial Day tournament, which we played in last year for the first time. I guess we used to play like many, many years ago, but we came back to it last year, and I was considering, do we play them again? Like, do we choose to play them again?
Because it all counts towards the
yes,
standings
but
and stuff.
A team like that playing them again is only going to help us with our ranking. We were last year regular season. I think we were 12-8, which on paper.
Right.
Okay.
Put those 8 losses against
Yes.
top 5 teams in the state.
Exactly. So our power ranking was anywhere between 9 and 11 the whole entire season. So, choosing to play them, as a coach, you're like, I don't know if I want to do that. But it always ends up helping us right before the postseason, too.
And just on that topic, like going back to 2021, Billerica was the 17 seed. They won the North. They won the North title. I don't know if they won the state championship, but they won the North title. And they went to the state tournament. So it just goes to show, you kind of lose a bunch of games in a great conference doesn't necessarily mean you're not a great,
Right.
don't have the ability to go far in the tournament.
Right.
It seems like in softball more than any other sport, you look at the brackets, if you go back 5-7 years, there's a lot of times there's a 12, 14, 15 seed that gets to the final game or the final 4.
Yep.
And I think it's, partly due, and it's often an MVC team.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one year where 3 MVC teams were in the final 4,
Yeah.
I think back in 16 or 17 or
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
It was Billerica, Methuen, and Central or something, and it's the MVC is a bear in
It's a bear.
in softball for sure.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about? I gotta be honest. I watched 4 years of varsity when my daughter was playing, and I think that your coaching style changed a lot in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like base running became a lot more aggressive at the end. Do you think was that conscious? Was that player driven? Was that hey? Got nothing to lose here. We're going to run more.
Yeah. I think it's you play your strengths. So as I start to trust myself more and my players more, I think that naturally happens. If your daughter got on base, like she was moving, she was taking bases because she was so fast and she was smart. Not all base runners who are fast are kind of like their base running IQ isn't always super high. Able to read like the strength of the arm from the outfield and how they're covering third. Is there a backup? Things like that. So as you can kind of get these players that are thinking about those things and also fast, you start to be more aggressive. But I think it's partially my own confidence too. Throughout the years as you're coaching, you get more aggressive. You know that if you make a mistake, you make a mistake, but it pays off maybe more times than it doesn't. So I think it's probably a little combination of knowing their strengths and just growing my own confidence too.
Are there so as you look forward to this team coming up with so many key contributors leaving, are there certain people you're going to be leaning on in certain areas this year?
I think all of my returning players I'm going to lean on to teach the new crop. I've got half a team that's going to be new to me, not new to softball, but new to me. So I think it's going to be relying on pretty much everyone who's returning to kind of teach the other half kind of how I work and what my expectations are. They'll learn the first day, the new kids, they'll learn the first day that if they swear and I'm around, they're going to be running for the rest of practice. So I think, they will help me set the tone for the first, after tryouts are done for that first week or so. But they all have a part. It's tough. I've got some captains who are awesome leaders. They're going to figure out how their leadership style works. They all kind of complement each other differently. But every last person on my returning roster is going to play a key part this year. They have to. We don't have a choice.
I have to say, as a parent, I truly appreciated and respected the strictness of your coaching. And it doesn't mean the kids didn't have fun. I remember the dance-off against Newton North when the umpires were late, Memorial Day, you know. The two teams were literally having a dance-off while we were waiting for the umpires to show. But truthfully, the swearing thing, you know, kids swear. We get it. It happens. But you know what? Coach Flan has an expectation for them not to. And if it happens, there's a consequence, and they deal with it. But I think that, you know, for me as a parent, I didn't think it was, you know, anything more than just, you know, you doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I definitely appreciated it, and I think the kids respond well to it. I think
Thank you.
it proves that they're capable of modifying their behavior in the situation when it's called for.
Right. And we talk about that in school all the time in my classroom. You know, kids swear, and I call them out for it, and they're like, "Boy, Miss, you swear." Like, maybe, but when the time's appropriate. School is not an appropriate
not
place.
in the classroom.
Right. Your job that you're going to have one day, not an appropriate place. So we talk about those things in the classroom too, and it kind of, I have a lot of these kids in class as well, typically, and that spills over into what I expect on the field too.
Right.
So one of the things we're talking to all the coaches about, just because club sports plays like well, I don't know if it's important, but a big role in youth sports these days. How many of the kids that typically come through your varsity program are playing club? Is it the majority of those kids playing pretty much all year or 3 seasons?
So I think a good maybe 50%, maybe majority. It's a mix depending on the year. And if they're not playing, I always support them playing more than one sport. So if they're playing the volleyball and they're playing basketball, awesome, just swing the bat sometimes. And a lot of them will then choose to play in the summertime. But it's hard to balance softball all year and then also something else as your primary commitment for that season. Mm-hmm. I have kids that play. I have a lot of volleyball players. It works out this way. So I have a lot of volleyball players in the fall that they're playing volleyball full time. They're playing volleyball on the weekends, and then they're also trying to fit in like a club softball practice on like a Wednesday night. It's tough. It's hard for kids. So, does it help? Of course it does. But you also don't want to burn out. You want to physically stay healthy. So you can get your work in other ways, I think. So a lot of them will choose to play softball, but last year's senior class, I had a whole slew of them graduating, and only one ended up playing the next year in college. One's playing volleyball, one's playing rugby. So I think for kids that are 16, 17 years old, try to do as much as you can and try not to burn out, because you'll lose the love of why you're even there in the first place.
Yeah, that's a common theme I think we've heard from other coaches as well. So is my understanding that you got an official assistant coach position on your team, or is this boom or whatever? Because Dave Brown, quick plug for Dave, NAAA member, running for school committee, great guy, and I'm going on a tangent now, but Dave's worth it. For the amount of time that Dave has put into the Booster Club softball program, and now the high school program. He was the freshman coach last year. Now he's going to be the JV coach this year. But his daughters have been out of softball Booster Club for years.
8 years probably.
8 years. Yeah. And he's still down at the field coaching and helping out. And so it's great to have him kind of at the high school level mentoring the kids. The only knock on Dave is sometimes the parents had to turn their lights on at McAvoy for his post-game speeches, because they kind of went on a little bit.
As a coach with Dave, I never resented the having to turn our lights on at McAvoy. It was having to turn our lights on in Malden at 9:30 at night on a Wednesday while there's 40 cruisers swinging through with their lights on to get somewhere. That was the issue I had.
I'm sure I'll hear from Dave. But no, a great guy, and it's good to have him. But anyway, so JV coach moves up to help you out on the varsity team.
So, my JV coach, who's Trip tomorrow, he's an Atkinson PE teacher. Shout out Atkinson All-Stars. He loves those guys. He's going to be my assistant this year. Last year it was Brooke Randall, who was our assistant principal. She's moved on to Peabody High. So Tripp's going to be my assistant. Dave's going to take over JV. And then Coach Gans, who's another math teacher, she's going to be coaching the freshman team. Nice. And she was in the program last year, so she kind of saw how things worked and kind of got used to it. Learned a lot from Dave. Kind of mentored her last year.
So you're going to have a full 3 squads?
Yep.
Good.
Yep. We just had our registration number come out, and it's looking like we've got 3 full teams, which is awesome. We've had that for... The only time I can't remember having 3 full teams was 2020. Right, we had a meeting with some 8th graders who were going to play, and then everything got shut down. Sure. So we didn't have a season.
Is it a strict freshman team, the one you're going to have, or is it JV 1 and 2?
We don't know yet.
You don't know?
Yeah, that usually happens after tryouts for a few days, and we kind of see where, who plays what position, where we want to kind of stack people. Yeah.
Would you love to see a field at the high school?
I would love to see a field at the high school.
Well, listen to the Coach Doolin podcast, because he's
got the vision.
He had it mapped out. He's like, oh yeah, we could put a baseball field here. We could put a softball field there. I'm like, okay, well, where's the hockey rink gonna go?
Yeah. The only thing, McAvoy, the strength there, we have all 3 teams in the same place, which I love. That's the best. I can actually, we all play at the same time, so I often don't get to their games because I'm coaching my own, but I can at least be in touch with them while they're practicing, see what's going on, check in with my coaches. That's the only thing, but I would love to be able to play. We'd get a bigger fan base. The kids would love it. I think that would be cool to play at the high school.
We touched on the youth league stuff earlier, and I asked this question of everyone because I think any kid or parent who's listening that wants to play for you deserves to know. 6th grader, 7th grader right now, 8th grader, they want to play for you at some point. What are they working on? What do you want to see from them? What should they focus on?
I think the biggest thing, other than don't swear, the biggest thing is to just work hard when you're trying out for a team. And don't give up because it looks like other people might be better than you. We talk about a lot in our kind of coaching circle that it feels like less and less kids are playing sports at the high school level. Like every time we get the registration numbers, less and less kids are trying out, it seems. And I think a big part of it is that, in the age of social media, kids are constantly comparing. It's become like their norm to constantly compare. And so I think kids compare to someone else and they think like, nah, maybe it's not for me. Just keep working hard. A lot can change between 6th grade and 9th grade. Like, kids change a lot physically, emotionally. You might have the maturity of an 11th grader, and you bust your butt at tryouts, and I'm taking the kid who's working hard, not the kid who maybe looks better but gives me attitude when I tell him to slide. So I just say keep working hard, keep working at it, and when you try out for a team, have a good attitude. Work hard, never walk from point A to point B, and the coaches really do notice that. Even day one, we talk about it. We debrief at the end of tryouts day one, and we're talking about who was hustling from point A to point B, who was cheering on their teammates. That's usually the first thing we notice.
Yeah. So as you look forward to the spring season, like what's your feeling? How you feeling about the team, about the prospects of, going a long way in the tournament? Here's your take.
I think we're going to do okay. Like I said about my returners, there's a good enough amount of them, and they all contributed last year that I think they're going to just step right in right where we left off. Maybe in some different positions than they were in last year, but I really think that with our pitching strength and kind of the depth that we're bringing back, I think we're going to do okay. I'm excited. Yeah, I think we're gonna do some damage in the MVC and set us into the tournament.
Nice. I love it. I love the confidence.
Yeah.
There's a question that just popped into my mind, and I have to ask this. So, given like the focus on like numbers and data and statistics, like you being an AP stats teacher, like do you dabble in any of that stuff when it comes to other teams, or and do you feel like it's helped you coach as a coach, or?
A little bit. With high school girls, nothing ever trends the way you would expect it to. So even if, like you've looked at a kid's on-base percentage or walk, something like that, of course the day that you play, like they're not there, or they're having a bad day, or they're having a really good day. There's so much variability with high school girls that you can't really, it's probably not as useful as it should be because day-to-day is, who knows.
And stats are tough to come by in high school.
They are.
They really are.
Yeah.
It's a frustration of mine, and I always think that, not me, but I wish there was someone out there who could. There's rallynorth.net if you ever looked at it, which is good, but sometimes you check the record and they're missing games.
Yeah.
I know they played Chelmsford in June, but it's not there. The score.
Well, that's a good point. So. You can't I can't go back and look at what the standings were on the Merrimack Valley Conference website from last year or the year before or the year before that. There's none of that in there. It just has the current schedules.
Yeah, a lot of it's just reading the newspaper and looking at at-bats, hits, and then you kind of do the quick math to figure out, all right, maybe it was a sac bunt, maybe it was a walk, but it's a lot of making inferences.
Right.
And then, half the time doesn't play out the way you want it to.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you being here, taking the time out of your day to come and chat with us. Anything that you want to mention to your team or to anybody listening to the podcast?
Just got to give NAAA a big thank you. Just so everyone listening knows, they've hooked us up with a very expensive pitching machine and some awesome windscreens on the back of our backstops on both our varsity and JV field. So thank you guys for helping us out. So I'll come back anytime. Thank you.
That's what we do. And hopefully you'll come to our Night of Comedy on April 8th, Saturday night, April 8th. Yes, it's the night before Easter, but you know what? It's going to be a good show. And most of you people listening have kids in high school, so you can leave them alone for 2 hours to come to our show. The Clouder Pub, April 8th at 7 o'clock doors open, 8 o'clock show. $2.75 for a table of 10 or $30 per person.
Awesome. Coach Flan, best of luck this season. We'll be rooting you on, and hope to see you go far, far, far into the playoffs.
We do too. Thank you.
Thanks again.